Okay, so you're going to put your first and last name at the top. Today's date, the date you're receiving the packet is the 23rd. Okay, this is quarter one, week one. That's what this represents at the top, quarter one, week one. The assignments that are due Friday are the following. I'm going to go ahead and tell you what they are. It's the warm up, and we're going to submit assignments online, but I will get to that later on in the week. Okay, so no worries. And then we have homework that we're going to submit on Friday. All right. Resources needed here. When I'm walking around to look at your packet, if somebody puts tutoring or something like that, something that they actually need, I pay attention to those things so that I can help you with the things that you're gonna need. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with just making a list of things that you need. All right, classwork. The first thing that we're gonna do, we kind of did our intro to class first. Okay, we did an intro, basically just telling you, giving you a brief synopsis that this is a high school level course, okay, and that I am here to help you and service you. You don't have to feel intimidated at all. Please make sure that you ask questions if you have questions. Um, Remember, it is going to go at a little bit of a faster pace so that we can finish with the curriculum. But don't be afraid to say, Miss Reyes, you're going too fast so that I can help you. Okay, get caught up. All right. The second thing, we're going to go through this packet. Okay, we're going to do our warm up. I'm going to go through we're going to write down what our EQs are. We only have one EQ this week. Kind of got erased as I was probably walking by. No worries. And I'm going to talk to you about the homework. Okay. We're going to do a directional activity, personality test. And we're not going to have time to set up our interactive notebook, and that's okay. We'll do that tomorrow. It's real simple. So no worries. You see that on the board, but we won't have time. Okay. We just won't have time today. Our homework for tonight is going to be day one in our packet. It's the last page. You're exempt from the homework if and only if this is super important. Okay. You are exempt from the homework if when you came to open house, you filled out the form and you signed up for a remind. Okay, so you're exempt if signed up for a remind and you filled out the open house form, OH form. Okay, those are the two things that you had to do in order to be exempt. If you did not come to open house or you didn't do either of those two things, I'm going to give you a sheet. If you do it today, then I will exempt you from the homework tonight. Okay? So if you didn't come to open house, pause my video real quickly so it's not too long. All right. I appreciate your honesty, but you will be fine. All right. So over here, when I check your homework, 1 stamp means you didn't do anything. 2 stamps means the work is incomplete. 3 stamps means that you finished everything. All right. So let's turn over to the back so we can write. And I check your homework like Monday's homework. I'll check tomorrow. Of course, if you're exempt because you did what you're supposed to do, then you're good, right? You get it? The EQ, which I got erased, is to describe how. Please write this down. We only got one EQ this week. Describe how to solve equations. And on Friday, you will either have a classroom discussion and talk about that and then write it down. Just depends. Sometimes your essential questions are a grade. and sometimes they're not. They're just open discussions. This week it'll be an open discussion. Any questions? Okay, let's look at the warm-up, please. Okay. Slide this up a little bit. Okay. So now with the warm-up, I'm gonna give you like maybe about 5 minutes. I want you to try, okay? I want you to try to see if you can answer the question. You don't know any of them? Look, that's all right. It really is. I'm gonna go over each of them with you, but I need you to try, okay? You need to try to put something down. Do not be afraid to be wrong, because we're all wrong sometime or another. Nobody's right all the time. Okay? Does not mean you're not smart. You're here. You're smart, okay? You here at school today. You are smart. So make sure that you try your best. I'm gonna pause my video. I'm gonna walk around and staple your papers together, okay? All right, so let's look at the first one, okay? Okay, so let's look at this. Any guesses? Any guesses?
The answer.
The answer, yeah. What did you think?
64.
Okay, 64 is a guess. Okay. I'm going to write my answers in exponent form. Okay. I'm going to simplify in exponent form. So this is what this is saying. This is my base and this is my exponent. The exponent tells me how many times to multiply the base, right? So this is saying to multiply 4 6 times, right? And this is saying to multiply 4 how many times? 3. So how many total times are we multiplying 4? 9. So that's my answer. It's 4, 6 plus 3, which is equal to what? Is equal to 9. So my answer is 4 to the 9th power.
Yes. So what's the, no, there's one that you're supposed to go for, there's a 4 times 4 times. Which one?
That is this, but we're writing it in exponent form. So see, this would really, because you don't have to simplify it completely. So this is saying multiply 4 6 times. That's 4 times 4 times 4 times 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One more time. 6. This is saying multiply 4 3 times. So if I write my answer in exponent form, I'm going to say 4 to the what power? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Do you understand now?
Yeah.
Okay. That's all right. You good to go. To the 9th. Sorry, y'all. That's kind of sloppy. All right, son. Yes, baby. Go ahead.
I said it's fine.
You said sorry. All right. So, what do you think you would do for number 2? What do you think you would do for number 2? Any guesses on that one? What do you think, baby? Okay, we got 5 to the 8th as a guess, or educated guess, I should say, because he put some thought into it. Anybody else? No guesses? Really? Okay, that's fine. Let's look at this. I add to get my answer here, and I'm multiplying. This is division, so I'm going to subtract. And let me show you why subtraction works here. On the top, 5 is being multiplied how many times? 3. Somebody said it good. Say it good. That's good. Okay. On the bottom, 5 is being multiplied how many times? 5. 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 times 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Do you follow me so far? Yes.
How do you know it's multiplying?
Because when you have an exponent-based relationship, the exponent tells you how many times you're going to multiply the base.
So why does it have a subtraction?
Because it's telling you whatever this answer is on top, you're going to divide it by whatever it is on the bottom. Okay. All right, so let's finish it out. What's 5 divided by 5? 1. 5 divided by 5 is 1. So this is 1 right here. You see that? What's 5 divided by 5? 1. What's 5 divided by 5? 1. So let's look at the top now, the numerator. This is 1 times 1 times 1. What's 1 times 1 times 1?
1.
So it's 1 on the top. Okay? On the bottom, how many times is 5 being multiplied? 2 left. So it's going to be 5 to the second power. This is my answer. So now, Ms. Reyes, how would I get that if all I did was subtract using the shortcut? Okay? This is how this works. Watch me see. You got 5 to the third, 5 to the fifth. So you're going to subtract these exponents. It's going to be 3 is first because it's on top, minus 5. What is 3 minus 5?
2.
Negative 2. Because it's a negative number, you write it like this. 1 over 5 to the second. So anytime you see that, watch what I do so you can see it. If I had 6 to the negative 3, how would I write 6 to the negative 3? Uh-oh, look at what I did to this one. 1 over 6 to the positive third. What about this? 7 to the negative 4. How would I write that? Very good. How would I write this? 10 to the negative 3 to the third power. Following me? Okay. All right, so this is my answer here. Okay. So now let's look at number 3. Rational, irrational. What is the definition for rational? Anybody know? Any guesses? Yes, what do you think? He said even. That's a good guess. What did you say? Say again, baby. Okay, reasonable. I like it. It is reasonable. Okay. What do you think?
I think it's like if it's divided.
Okay. Any other guesses? And remember, we cannot be afraid to be wrong. Okay? Because that's when people make inventions in this world, they don't get it right the first time they create something. It takes hundreds of times before they get that thing to be the way they want it to be. All right. Are you okay on the end? You all right, baby? You sure? Okay. All right. So rational is a number. It is a reasonable number, just like she stated. But a rational number is a number that can be written as a fraction. Okay? Irrational numbers are numbers that cannot be written as a fraction. Let's look at this root, the square root.
Please pardon this interruption. There are 7th grade students.
Okay. So rational, irrational. Let's look at this square root. If it is a perfect square root, you can write it as a fraction. If it's a non-perfect square root, you can't really write that as a fraction. So let me give you an example of what a perfect square root looks like. Any guesses before I say that? Yes. What do you think?
What square root?
Like, that's okay. Like the square root of 25. I know you've seen that one a bunch. What's the square root of 25? 5. That's square root. That's what I mean when I say square root. Okay? So when you're finding the square root of a number, what you're basically doing is finding one number that can be multiplied times itself to give you the number that's under that radical. So the number that can be multiplied times itself to give you 25 is 5. Okay? What's another perfect square root? Yes.
40.
Not 40, but 40 what? Not 42. 49. Thank you. 49. What's the square root of 49? It's 7. Okay? Because 7 times itself is going to give you the number under this radical sign, which is 49. Yes.
Wait. Couldn't 40 still work?
40, that's not a number. That's a whole number that can be multiplied. It has to be a whole number, not a decimal. Okay? All right. Which one? This right here, 7 times 7? Or the...
How you get it? Because if it's 42, that's still 7.
Okay, so let's go through them then. Let's go through them. So you got 1 times 1 is what? 1. So the square root of 1 is equal to 1. That's a perfect square. 2 times 2. 4. The square root of 4 is equal to what? 2. 3 times 3 is what? 9. What's the square root of 9? 3, because 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times itself is 9. What's 4 times 4? 16. What's the square root of 16? 4. What's 5 times 5? 25. What's the square root of 25? 5. Do you see what I'm doing?
So it has to multiply itself to get that number?
Exactly. And it can't be a decimal. It has to be a whole number or integer.
So if it's a decimal, it's irrational.
If the answer is a decimal, it's irrational. Not a decimal itself, but just if the answer to a square root is a decimal, then that square root is irrational. But a decimal itself is rational. It's the only thing that's irrational is if a square root equals a decimal. Okay? All right, so here, this square root right here, if I was to type this in, this will be a decimal answer. So this is going to be irrational. Got it? All of these perfect square roots are rational. This is rational. Square root of 1.
39. What would equal 39?
It's a decimal of some sort. So that's why it's irrational. Okay? Any other questions about that? These are all really good questions. Thank you. All right, so let's look at number 4. How would I simplify number 4? What am I doing here? Yes.
You're grouping up the 7x and 3x and then taking the 6y.
Very good. And what's that called? Combining what?
Terms.
Like terms. So we're going to combine like terms. And he just said what those like terms were. The 7x and the negative 3x. What does that equal when you combine them together? 4x. Mm-hmm. And what else can we combine together? 6y and y. And what's the number that's in front of the negative y or the y? Is 1. What's that number called? This is my variable, that letter, but the number that's in front of that variable is called a what? Starts with a C.
Constant.
Not a constant. Constant is a number. That's a good guess, though. Constant is coefficient. Constant is a number that doesn't have a variable attached to it. Okay? This is a coefficient. So when I combine these together, notice how I take the signs in front of them. What does that give me? That gives me 5y. Very good. A positive 5y. And this is going to be my answer simplified because I cannot combine those terms together. Right? Okay. We all right? Okay. All right. Give you time to process and write, right? If ever I'm moving too fast, just tell me. Let's look at 5. We all right? We okay? Okay. What do you think?
So how do you know, like when you group them both up, how do you know when to divide and subtract them?
It'll have the sign that's in the middle between it.
Oh, okay.
That's a good question.
So if it's 2 negatives, then it's going to be a negative.
A negative minus
Or
a
is it
negative
positive?
is going to be positive. Yes. This is plus a positive.
So if it's a negative and then a positive, you would go towards the positive?
Depends on which one has the greater absolute value. Okay. All right, so let's look at x squared. X squared equals 64. What's the value of x going to be? Yes.
8.
It's going to be 8. Okay. How did you come to that conclusion?
64 or 8 times itself is 64.
Excellent job. Okay. Do you see how she plugged and checked? That's a strategy that you can use. If in fact it wasn't a perfect square, then you'd have to use the steps for solving an equation. And one of those steps is to do the inverse operation. What's the opposite of squaring a number? Because we know the opposite of addition is subtraction. We know the opposite of subtraction is addition. We know the opposite of multiplication is division. And the opposite of division is multiplication. What's the opposite of squaring a number, though? What's the opposite of squaring a number? What do you think, baby? It's square rooting. Perfect. You're the only one that got that all day. Square rooting. So we're going to find the square root of a number. Do you see how, look, when you square a number, look at this. I squared this number 1 times itself. To get it back to 1, what did I do? Square root. You see that? Squaring a number is the opposite. The opposite of squaring a number is square root. The opposite of square root is squaring. They undo each other, like multiplication and division, like subtraction and an addition. They undo each other. So here, if I didn't know that this was a perfect square, I find the square root on both sides to undo the square. So the square root of x squared, that's like saying, what did I multiply to give me x squared? I multiply x times itself. So the square root of x squared is just x. Because what did I do? I multiply x times itself to give me x squared. Pause. All right. So here, this is the square root of x squared is going to give me x. The square root of 64. What number times itself is going to give me 64? 8. See?
Is that how the answer is going to be? Or
Yes, how the answer is going to be.
Can you just put 8? Or does it have to have an x?
They want to know what x is. So you will put x is equal to 8. Okay? And whichever method you use, you still need to say that x is equal to whatever x is. All right, so let's look at number 6. It says the square root. So I'm going to write square root of 56 is between what two whole numbers? Okay, so look, I started it right here. I said 1 times 1 is 1, 2 times 2 is 4, 3 times 3 is 9, 4 times 4 is 16, 5 times 5 is 25. What's 6 times 6? 36. What's 7 times 7? 49. What's 8 times 8? 64. Look, these are my perfect squares. Okay, so the square root that 56 is in between, it's in between the square root of 49 and 64. The square root of 49 is equal to 7. The square root of 64 is equal to what? 8. So 56, the square root of 56 is between 7 and 8.
So does that make it an irrational number? Or...
This makes it an irrational number. Perfect. Very good observation. Okay? Any questions about that? How we feeling? And it's okay to say, Miss Reyes, you lost me. You lost me at hello. Like, it's cool. I just need to know. How we feeling? You all right? You all right, baby? You okay? Thumbs up. What about you? Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, or sideways? Up, okay. What about you? Sideways? Okay, fine. What about you? Okay, okay. Okay? Okay?
Question.
What's up?
So these, are we gonna keep them or are
You keep this until Friday when you turn it in.
Yeah, and what if like we wrote notes down? Do we just write them down in our notes?
I'll tell you where to write your notes at. But for right now, everything that goes with the warm-up, write it on the paper. If you need a separate sheet of paper, notebook paper you are going to need for like homework, don't put it in your notebook, put it on a separate piece of paper. That's a very good question. Yes. Waiting for this. Gotta come back, okay? All right. All of these are perfect questions. Any questions so far? Homework, let's look at that real quickly. For those of you that are not exempt from the homework looks like this. You will always write your homework on a separate piece of paper. Not in the interactive notebook, on a separate sheet of loose leaf paper. This would be Monday. This would be Tuesday. Sorry, y'all. This would be Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Oops, sorry, no homework on Friday. I'm tripping. I'm sorry, y'all. I got carried away. Okay? Any questions? The only time we have homework on Friday is if we kind of get behind on something. Okay? But I try not to do that. All right, are we okay? Please make sure that you always write your homework on a separate piece of paper. Okay? Now, it is good practice if you can be exempt from homework and you still want to go ahead and work these out. It's great practice. You can go ahead and do that, okay? But just note that if you get those two things done, then you have a homework pass. Yes, baby.
So do you want us to write our answers on a separate piece?
I want you to do everything on separate piece of paper. Yes.
So will this be like graded?
Yes, it is graded.
Okay.
Yep. Yes, baby.
Do all the different days have to be on different sheets? Or can they
No, you can put it on the same sheet. Just label it. Yeah, don't waste paper. Okay.
If you signed up for Remind, do you just exempt for Monday?
This exempt from Monday.
Okay.
You got to sign up for Remind and fill out the form, the open house form. Do you have the open? Did you do that at open house? Fill out this form right here. Make sure you do both.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, good people. We're going to do the personality activity. So we can go ahead and kind of like pack it up. That's the last thing that we're doing today is that. So go ahead and put your papers inside your folder. Do not throw away any packets until the end of the quarter, okay? Please hold on to your work in that folder until the end of the quarter. And then I'll tell you at that time, okay, you can go ahead and get rid of that. But you always want to keep up with your stuff because what happens if I make a mistake? You need the documentation that says, oh, Miss Ray, yes, I did do this or whatever. You know what I mean? So keep up with your stuff, please, okay? All right. We're going to do the personality. We're going to do the personality activity. Go ahead and get ready to go. I'm going to stop my video.